This is the Crescent Moon Bear. There was once a young woman who lived in a fragrant pine forest in Japan. Her husband was away fighting in the war for many years. When finally he was released from duty, he trudged home in a foul mood and refused to enter the house. He had become used to sleeping on the stones outside, and now he kept to himself and stayed in the forest day and night. His young wife had been so excited when she learned her husband was first coming home. She had cooked and shopped and cooked and made dishes and bowls of food, like tasty white soybean curd, 3 kinds of fish, 3 kinds of seaweed, sprinkled all over with red pepper, and a nice big bowl of juicy prawns, all the food he loved. Smiling shyly, she carried the food to the woods and knelt beside her war-weary husband. She offered to him the food she had prepared, but he sprang to his feet and kicked the trays over so that the food spilled into the dirt. "Leave me alone," he roared, and turned his back on her. He became so enraged that she was frightened of him. Time after time this occurred, until the young wife found her way to the cave of the healer who lived outside the village. She explained, "My husband was badly injured in the war. He's been hurt. He rages continuously and eats nothing. He's not the same man. He wishes to stay outside and sleep in the dirt and will not live with me as before. Please, can you please give me a potion that will make him loving and gentle once again?" The healer assured her, "Of course, this I can do for you, but I need a special ingredient. Unfortunately, I am all out of hair for the Crescent Moon Bear, so you must climb the mountain, find the black bear, and bring me a single hair from the crescent moon at its throat. Then I can give you what you need, and life will be good again." "Oh, I am so grateful," said the wife. "It is good to know that something can be done." She readied for her journey, packing some food into a bag, and the next morning she went out into the mountain. She sang out a greeting to the mountain as she went. "Thank you for letting me climb upon your body." She climbed to the foothills, where they were boulders like big loaves of bread. She ascended to a plateau covered with forest. The trees had long draping boughs and leaves that looked like stars. She found her way through the forest and began to continue to climb again. Up and up the mountain. It was harder now. The mountain was steep, and there were thorny flowers that seized the hem of her kimono, and rocks that scraped at her tiny hands when she reached forward to pull herself up. Strange dark birds flew out at her in the dusk and frightened her. She knew they were the spirits of the dead who had no relatives, so she sang out prayers for them. "I will be your relative. I will lay you to rest." Still she climbed. She climbed until she saw snow on the mountain peak. Her feet were wet and cold, and still she climbed higher. A storm began, and the storm blew straight into her eyes and deep into her ears. Blinded, she climbed higher still. And when the snow stopped, the woman sang out thank you to the winds for ceasing to blind her. She took shelter in a cave. She could barely pull her body into the cave. Although she had food, she had no energy to eat it. She tried to cover herself with some leaves for warmth, and she slept. In the morning, she felt better. The morning air up here was calm, and little green plants showed through the snow here and there. "Ah," she thought, "now I must find the Crescent Moon Bear." She searched all day, and near twilight found prints left across the snow, big gigantic bear prints, and claw marks. Then she saw the bear. The bear roared fiercely at her and went into his den. She reached into her bungle, a little bit hesitant now, and placed the food she had brought in a bowl. She set the bowl outside the bear's den and ran back to her shelter to hide. The bear, smelling the food, came lurching from his den, roaring so loudly it shook loose little stones from the ground. He circled around the food from a distance, smelling the wind many times, then gobbled the food up in one gulp. He returned to his den. The next evening the woman did the same, setting out the food, but this time, instead of returning all the way back to her shelter, she retreated only halfway. The bear smelled the food. It heaved itself out of its den, roared as if to shake the stars from the skies, circled, tested the air very cautiously, but finally ate up the food and crawled back into its den. This continued for many, many nights, until one dark blue night the woman felt brave enough to wait even closer to the bear's den. She put the food in the bowl outside the den as usual, but this time stood right by the opening. When the bear smelled the food and lumbered out ready to eat, it saw not only the usual food, but also a pair of small human feet. The bear turned its head sideways and roared so loudly it made the bones in the woman's body shake. She trembled, but stood her ground. The bear hauled itself up onto its back legs, smacked its jaws together, and roared so that the woman could see right up into the red-brown roof of its mouth like a cavern, but she did not move. It put out its arms as though to seize her, its claws hanging like knives over her head, and the woman shook like a leaf in the high wind, but stayed right where she was. "Oh, please, dear bear," she pleaded, "please, dear bear, I've come all this way because I need a cure for my husband." The bear brought its front paws to the earth in a spray of snow and peered into the woman's frightened face. For a moment, the woman felt like she could see entire mountain ranges, valleys, rivers, and villages reflected in that bear's old, old eyes. With that, a deep peace settled over her, and her trembling ceased. "Please, dear bear, I've been feeding you all these past nights. Could I please have one of the hairs from the crescent moon on your throat?" The bear paused. This little woman would be easy food, yet suddenly it was filled with pity for her. "It is true," said the Crescent Moon Bear. "You've been good to me. You may have one of my hairs, but take it quickly, then leave here and go back to your home." The bear raised its great snout so that the white crest on its throat showed, and the woman could see there the strong pulse of the bear's heartbeat. She put one hand on the bear's neck and with the other took hold of a single glossy white hair. Quickly she pulled it. The bear reared back and cried out, and then settled down into annoyed huffs. "Oh, thank you, Moon Bear, thank you so much." The woman bowed and bowed. The bear growled. It roared at the woman in words that she could not understand, and yet words she had somehow known all of her life. She turned and fled down the mountain as fast as she could. She ran under the trees with the leaves shaped like stars. She stumbled over the boulders that looked like loaves of bread, crying thank you to the mountain for letting her climb upon its body. She arrived in the village with her clothes ragged, her hair askew, her face covered in soil, her hands bleeding. She ran down the stairs that led down the dirt road, round the town, round the trees, over to the building where the old healer sat tending the fire. "Look, I found it! Look, the hair from the Crescent Moon Bear." "Ah, good," said the healer with a smile. She peered closely at the woman and took the pure white hair and held it out towards the light. She weighed the long hair in one old hand, measured it with one finger, and exclaimed, "Yes, this here is an authentic hair from the Crescent Moon Bear." Then she turned and threw the hair deep into the fire, where it popped and crackled and was consumed by a bright orange flame. "No!" cried the wife. "What have you done?" Be calm. All is good. All is well, said the healer. Remember each step that you took to climb the mountain. Remember each step you took to capture the trust of the Crescent Moon Bear. Remember what you saw, what you heard, and what you felt. Yes, said the woman, I remember very well. The old healer smiled at her gently and said, Please now, my daughter, go home with your new understandings and proceed in the same ways with your husband.